Morning of October 1st, 2022, Calvin Castine at the former U.S. Oval on the former Plattsburgh Air Force Base. And if it's bright and early, it's too early to say bright and early, I guess. So if it's dark and early, and we're here at slightly after 6 a.m., after a 5 o'clock wake-up call on this Saturday morning. You know, it's North Country Honor Flight time, and the last two flights of the year 2022 will be taking off today. There's supposed to be a huge, with a capital H, escort coming in. We were just told there's possibly as many as 200 motorcycles, along with the law enforcement and first responder, fire departments and stuff like that, vehicles. So it might be the biggest entrance here that this honor flight has experienced. Just as a note of history, I was looking back at some videos, and I'm thinking it was the 27th, but if not, it was probably the 28th of September 1995. We were here for the closing ceremony for Plattsburgh Air Force Base. So we've come a long way in those 27 years. And the air base is still getting a lot of use, but it's got a whole new identity, or I should say identities. So temperature was 39 when I hopped in my car. It was 41 when I hopped out of the car. So it's getting warmer all the time here, but it's a chilly morning, but fortunately no frost on the ground here. And once the sun comes up, it should help to make it a little more comfortable for those of us who are here, and very importantly too for the veterans that'll be sitting in those chairs and going on their honor flight this morning. We had the pleasure of being in Rouse's Point yesterday when a 99, almost 100-year-old was escorted through the village of Rouse's Point, coming across the Korean Veterans Memorial Bridge. He was a World War II veteran. Radio report we heard from WIRY was that, from Dave Andrews, was that he was from St. Albans. The Georgia Fire Department was escorting him. Georgia, Vermont, that is. So we're going to find another location, and we want to be able to catch that big crew when they arrive here in just a few moments. It's now about 6:21. I was down that way chatting with some the local veterans and honor flight folks when I could hear the sounds. And it's not the sounds of silence I heard, it's the sounds of sirens and horns and motors revving up. So we know coming here shortly will be that group. Been hearing them for several minutes now, so I'm surprised we can't see them already. There they are. Feel free to count the bikes, 'cause I may miss a couple. Looks like it's the police escort first. We're going to get over here onto the highway. and hopefully get a good view of this as it comes by. If you're in Plattsburgh on the morning of an honor flight and you're a late sleeper, or even and normally sleeper, you're probably woke up on these mornings from these sounds. Not sure where they're going to park all these vehicles and bikes. flight bus, North Country Honor flight bus. Mr. Barber at the wheel. That looks like the end of the bikes and the emergency vehicles, but they're still coming in here. A whole lot of other folks decided to be part of this parade, and it certainly lived up to its hype. So we will relocate as there's still vehicles coming around the bend. Some big vehicles coming around the bend right now, so I guess we'll wait for them to get here. Show what has happened behind us since we got here. And now there's starting to be a little bit of a traffic jam for some reason. But all these bikers are trying to find a place to park. All these police and emergency vehicles are trying to find a place to park. And we got well, let these three, I guess it is, vehicles come by. My guess is they made the they made the circle. There's Peru, and lights aren't flashing, so I'm guessing they've made the oval, and now they're hoping to find a place to park their vehicles. A couple of Peru and a Saranac fire truck. So we will make our way closer to where the ceremony will begin. Just going to do a 360 right here. We're just a few minutes away from the opening ceremony. We'll do a 360. The veterans are under the tent here, along with their escorts. And I know at least one case today, because it's local. The Wallets, Bob is a veteran, and he's escorting his brother Bruce Wallet. So sometimes they get two veterans going. You have a veteran and you have their escort.
Everyone take their places, please. We got about 5 minutes before we start. Thank you very much.
Tom Halleck, again, the MC here. We are very fortunate that although it's chilly, it's no precipitation. It would be impossible to get this amount of people into a building today.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Honor Flights 42 and 43.
Barry Finnegan, the head man, the head person at the honor flight.
When these fine veterans come home today, they'll add to our total list of veterans that we've sent, which is a total of 650 veterans out of the North Country. Just an amazing total, and the fact that we actually pulled off 8 flights this year and sent 120 veterans, and this year alone is just amazing. We can't thank everybody that's here enough, and all the volunteers, and to everybody that helps this whole program survive. A big thank you to everybody. So especially those motorcycles that were out there this morning in the cold, cold weather. How about that thunder and the bird? That was a brainstorm of Lloyd Provost and Mike Parsons, and to see that whole thing come together, just amazing. And we don't know, maybe it'll be part of the program from now on. Everybody seems to be quite happy with it. So that's yeah.
Whoa! A lot of work going into that.
I'd like to thank a couple of the clubs that came down today. The Saranac National Junior Honor Society is down there. Katie, give us a wave. Strong supporters since the beginning of Honor Flight. The Lions Club is down there. Thanks, Lion Club, for coming. And the ladies from the VFW 125 are down there. Thanks for coming down, ladies. And once again, I'd like to thank Tom Halleck for being our MC. He's the best in the business. Mr. Tom Halleck, Mountain Lake PBS.
Thank you, Barry. It is a pleasure to be here. Good morning, everyone. What a fantastic crowd. Thank you so much for being here. We are going to start things off this morning with Michaela Brown Hemingway from Beekmantown Central School. She is a senior there. She is going to sing our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Michaela. It's now my pleasure to introduce Hayden Devlin, a sixth grader from Sable Forks Elementary School, for our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Hayden. I'd like to welcome some of the dignitaries and political leaders here with us today. New York State Senator Dan Steck, representing the 45th District, is here. I'd like to welcome Town of Plattsburgh Supervisor Michael Cashman. Clinton County legislators Wendell Hughes, Calvin Castine, who's on camera as always, Dave Bazzaio, welcome to you, gentlemen. And now I'd like to welcome New York State Assemblyman Billy Jones to say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. Morning. How are we doing? Good. Well, I'd like to make an announcement that I have secured $65,000 for the North Country Honor Flight to continue doing the great work that they do. It's your money, and I couldn't think of a better way, and I'm sure you couldn't think of a better use of it, to get these veterans down to those memorials. They deserve it. We want to continue to do it. And certainly this wonderful organization, I want to thank them for all the work that they do. A lot of work goes into this, bringing our nation's heroes down to those memorials. So I think we should give them a big round of applause as well. And thank you all for coming out and continuing to support and send off these wonderful heroes of ours. And veterans, God bless you. Have a wonderful day down there, and I hope you get to bring back many, many memories. Thank you so much for your service. God bless you. God bless America.
Thank you, Assemblyman. It's now my honor to introduce our United States Congresswoman, Elise Stefanik.
Well, thank you everyone for being here today. It is so great and inspiring to see so many members of our community turning out in support early on a weekend morning to thank and honor the heroes among us. I also want to thank the parents and grandparents for bringing your children. It is so important to teach the next generation to show gratitude and say thank you to those who serve, who put their lives on the line. I've been privileged to be a part of the Honor Flight since the first few years, and I will tell you the community support has grown and grown and grown. Even compared from last month's turnout to this month's turnout, there are more and more people. This has become the North Country Honor Flight family. And the reason we're here today is because of you, our brave veterans. Today we have vets from World War II, from the Vietnam War, from the Cold War, and the Korean War, and we are so grateful for your service. What I've learned in office is every individual, every veteran has an amazingly inspiring and humbling story, and you're going to hear that today. It's always my honor either to send you off here or to welcome you in Washington to see the beautiful World War II Memorial and to go to Arlington National Cemetery. You are going to have a great day. Thank you to your partners who are escorting you. God bless you. Thank you for your service. We would not have the opportunity to live in the greatest nation in the world if it were not for you. So thank you and enjoy the day.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Now a special part of this send-off ceremony. I would like to introduce the Morrisonville Elementary School Choir to sing Red, White, and Blue.
The original song helped they're created by Roy Hurd.
That beats in every heart. It helps us stand together so that we all can do our part.
one of the highlights of these send-offs. The original song.
Thank you. I would now like to welcome Joe Patnode from the Clinton County American Legion. He is the commander of the American Legion, to pay tribute to the honor flight veterans that have passed since our last flight.
Well, I got some great news. I have no names this time. But Barry did ask me to please read this. It's about our veterans. As a combat veteran myself, I kind of understand this. It's from George S. Patton. They would want us to go fishing. They would want us to laugh. They would want us to sing. They would want us to be with our friends. They would want us to bake a pie. They would want us to be with family. They would want us to fly our flag. They would want us to be free. I want you to understand the cost and never forget it. It is foolish and wrong to mourn the men and women that died. Rather, we should thank God for such men and women who lived. Thank you. We're still going to pay tribute to our fallen. We're going to have our 3-round volley. We're going to have one extra today. They're going to do Amazing Grace.
The bagpipers are back in that corner over that way, not visible.
that wonderful? The police, pipe and drums, they are fantastic. And that was very beautiful. It is now my pleasure to welcome country music entertainer and flight leader today, Larry Lee Eber, singing of More Than a Name on the Wall.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming out this morning to honor our veterans for all the sacrifices they made so we can enjoy the freedom that we have today. This next song is from an era that I'm sure most of us have lived through. If you ever, or should you ever visit Washington, D.C., you should see the wall, and you should touch it. And it in return will touch you. This song is for all of those whose names are there, and for all of those who risk having their names there on the wall. Saw her from a distance as she walked up to the wall. In her hand she held some flowers as her tears began to fall. And she took out pen and paper as to trace her memory. And she looked up to heaven, and the words she said were these. She said, Lord, my boy was special, and he meant so much to me. And though I'd love to see him just one more time, you see, all I have are the memories and the moments to recall. So Lord, could you tell him he's more than a name on a wall? Said he really missed the family, being home on Christmas Day. And he died for God and country in a place so far away. I remember just a little boy playing war since he was 3. But Lord, this time I know he's not coming home to me. She said, Lord, my boy was special, and he meant so much to me. And though I'd love to see him, but I know it just can't be. So I thank you for my memory and the moments to recall. But Lord, could you tell him he's more than a name on a wall? Lord, could you tell him he's more than a name on a wall? Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. I would now like to welcome Mike Farrell for our closing prayer.
The ceremony is brief because they have all these veterans to
Good morning. You're an impressive gathering
get on those
today.
buses.
You should all be well pleased with yourselves for showing such honor to these men that are flying down Flight 42 and 43. It was April 29, 2004, opening day for the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. At the time of its opening, an 18-year-old military recruit from 1942 would already be 80 years of age. Honor Flight Network co-founder Earl Morris and Jeff Miller fully recognized the dire need to get World War II veterans to D.C. to visit their memorial. On the 21st day of May 2005, 6 small planes took 12 veterans to Washington, D.C. for the first honor flight. In that same year, a combination of small planes and commercial flights flew 126 World War II vets to their memorial. As of May 2013, North Country Honor Flight joined wholeheartedly to pursue that same mission. Get the greatest generation down to see their newly erected World War II memorial. As the years have passed, North Country Honor Flight is transitioning to give all veterans the same sense of urgency to visit their respective memorials. I hold here in my hand an American military issue World War II devotional from 1942, Strength for Service to God and Country. With deepest respect to those who fought in World War II and in the traditional roots of honor flight, please bow your heads as I recite the prayer written for October 1st, 1942.
80 years ago.
Our Heavenly Father, help us to remember Thy Son, Jesus Christ our Lord. Give us His strength, His wisdom, His spirit, His winsomeness. Keep our faces ever toward the light and our feet from forbidden paths, that we may not forge a chain by our misdeeds. Walk with us today. Be our guide, our counselor and friend, that nothing we say or do may dishonor Thee or need undoing. Give us a sense of obligation in our work, and may we do it as in Thy presence. Amen. Flights 43, 42, 43, I would like to thank you for your service. Thank you for my freedom. Godspeed.
Folks, we're going to take just a moment to have a moment of silence for the victims of Hurricane Ian in Florida. It has been a tough week for many of our friends and families and fellow countrymen after what they've endured. Let's give them our thoughts for a moment. Thank you. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. Please join me now in welcoming Director of Operations and Flight Leader today, Janet Dupre.
Janet's going on a flight.
The bios of our veterans who are heading on the deep flight tonight.
All right, I'm going to keep the camera rolling and maneuver. You know, we always bounce a little bit when we walk, but if she starts talking, we want to make sure we get it. Great job there by Larry Ebert today. That's always a heartwarming song.
We'll get it here, folks. Give us a little patience. I do want to thank everybody for joining us today. What an amazing crowd again. You folks are always so great to turn out in honor of our veterans. It's my pleasure today to be the flight leader on Flight 42. Please, as always, show your respect as we read the biographies for each and every veteran. Charles Ross, Jr., U.S. Air Force, 1967, 1969, Vietnam. Right out of high school, Chuck joined the Army with a dream of jumping out of airplanes. Scheduled to be in Korea, he was accepted into jump school. He volunteered for Vietnam, making many jumps as an infantry paratrooper in the 82nd and 173rd Airborne Division. Chuck went into combat with full ruck and a weapon longer than his body. His wife, Sandy, lovingly calls him Rambo with the photos to prove it. For his valor, Chuck received several medals, including a Purple Heart, Bronze Star, and parachute badge. Charles, Cummings, U.S. Army, 1962 to 1984, Vietnam. After basic training at Fort Dix, Hank was assigned to the Joint Military Assistance Command in Saigon. Part of the Department of Defense, the MAC included all branches of service. Hank did 2 tours in Korea at 1st Cavalry Headquarters, and he went from personnel clerk to personnel supervisor during a tour in Germany. Completing his military career as a personnel supervisor at Fort Dix, Hank remained there in the same position as a civilian called Human Resources. Hank equally served 20 years as a soldier and 20 years as a federal employee, retiring after 40 years of service to our country. Henry Cummings. Gary Dickerson, U.S. Army, 1963 to 1966, Vietnam. 309th U.S. Army Reserves, 1974 to 1992. Gary was in basic training at Fort Dix when President Kennedy was shot. At Fort Leonard Wood, Gary completed heavy equipment training, and 10 soldiers were given special orders to Thailand. Thailand was a hardship tour at 100 degrees and heavy rains. They worked 12-hour days, 7 days a week, with 3 days off at the end of the month. Gary ran earth-moving equipment all day, building roads. Flying from Bangkok to Saigon, they landed on the runway as it was being blown up. They were the last plane to take off, heading back to the States. Landing in San Francisco, Gary understood the instructions to put on civilian clothes, as the soldiers would not be welcomed home. Gary Dickerson. Kenneth Foster, U.S. Air Force, 1952 to 1956, Korea. In Korea, Ken was assigned to the Squad 75 Bomb Wing, Busan East K-9 Air Force Base. The 543rd Ammo Supply Squad depot mission controlled large bomb dumps at a railroad head. Ammo was then shipped to other bases heavily controlled by air police. At Busan, Ken drove tractor-trailer. Operators had a problem with reprocessed jet fuel tanks and moving heavy equipment as they delivered to the docks at Busan. Equipment was then shipped out to various points. A lot of GIs went through the squadron. Too often, snipers fired from the mountains to the base. Kenneth Foster. Guy Bramard, U.S. Navy, 1958-1961, Vietnam. Completing electrical school at Great Lakes Training Center, Guy went on board the USS Fulton AS-11 186 nuclear support ship. Sailors cut 2 guns and put a liquid oxygen plant to give oxygen to nuclear submarines. Nautilus, the world's first nuclear-powered submarine, came in there after going into an ice cap. 2 guys were on one side of the ship with 68 tons of fluid for refilling the submarines. Forgetting to put the generator on the other side, the boat almost tipped everybody over the side. Guy served all 4 years on the USS Fulton, which was decommissioned in 1991 after 50 years of naval service. Guy Bramard. Robert Helms, U.S. Army, 1964 to 1967, Vietnam. Bob completed advanced infantry training at Fort Dix and went to Fort Benning for jungle training. For 8 months, 29 days, Bob was in Vietnam near the Cambodian border. 30 Viet Cong and Major Bushes attacked our U.S. soldiers. In Bob's words, tore them up. As they called in support, Bob was shot through the stock of the rifle, took muscle out through the shoulder, and shots put shrapnel in his legs. The Viet Cong began searching bodies. Bob and two buddies laid down together. One was deceased. As the other raised up, he was shot. An enemy flipped Bob over, and he played dead, saving his life. The following morning, an observation helicopter found Bob, zeroed in as a gunship picked him up and transferred to a hospital. For his courage, Bob received many medals, including a Purple Heart. Robert Charles Moynihan, U.S. Air Force, 1964 to 1969, Vietnam. Chuck received basic training in San Antonio as a Morse code intercept radio operator. The team worked in shifts, including practicing on alert as telecommunications were received at all times. A couple of times, Russian MiGs were chasing U.S. planes as analysts copied, at the moment, Morse code. Chuck said it was exciting, but put everybody on edge. Chuck served at air bases in Mississippi, Texas, Turkey, and England. He enjoyed his 2 years in England and went to Sherwood Forest. Sightseeing in Turkey, he learned the language so the taxi cab drivers couldn't double charge him. Charles Moynihan. Arnold Provo, U.S. Army, 1964 to 1966, Vietnam. 309th U.S. Army Reserves, 1977, 1996. Arnie was stationed at Redstone Arsenal in Alabama twice and trained at Bluegrass Army Depot, Kentucky. Sent to Germany for 16 months, Arnie worked the ammo dump and served as a radio teletype operator. Summer training in Italy was a beautiful time before returning to Fort Dix as a forklift driver and working at the ammo dump. Going overseas for Arnie, he spent 8 terrible days on a ship. Returning from Europe, his designation as a personnel operator gave him a flight from Frankfurt to Heathrow, ending at LaGuardia. Arnie enjoyed the plane ride over the ship anytime. Arnold Provo. Ronald Sickles, U.S. Navy, 1960-1961, U.S. Air Force, 1962-1966, Vietnam. After basic training at Great Lakes, Ron was assigned to chipping paint on the outside of the ship, so he decided to transfer. He joined the Air Force. He attended the mechanic school as the B-47 was decommissioned. Ron then went to heavy equipment school and built sidewalks, parking lots, roads, rebuilding whatever was damaged. On a bus in Dallas, heading back to Lackland, they learned that President Kennedy had been killed. 2 days after arriving in Alaska, an earthquake hit, so lots of cleanup and cold weather. Final destination, Plattsburgh Air Force Base, where Ron decided not to re-enlist. Today is Ron's 80th birthday, so let's give him a hearty happy birthday. Francis Spendley, U.S. Army, 1942 to 1945, World War II.
Soon to be 100 years old.
Frank's amazing military career began with the 101st Airborne Division. A Wisconsin division with an eco mascot became the Screaming Eagles. A newspaper reporter at the 101st headquarters Frank knew everything was top secret. Speaking only among themselves, reporters were aware every month came closer to an invasion. 7 months later, they were in England. The evening before D-Day, General Eisenhower addressed the troops, telling them to proudly wear their Screaming Eagles patch. Frank said it was an honor to meet the general. On D-Day morning, their venture started well ahead of the Marine invasion. Their mission was to keep the Germans from bringing reinforcements and vehicles to the beach. As the troops moved through dense woods, they used the cricket system. Frank explained they pushed the cricket twice, and if they got a click back once, it was a friend. If they got no click, it was foe, and they dealt with it. In December 1944, the German army launched a surprise attack known as the Battle of the Bulge. In Bastogne, U.S. soldiers were ordered to leave things behind, including their winter jackets. Frank couldn't stand wet feet, so he kept dry socks in his helmet to replace the cold, wet socks. A German ultimatum told the troops to surrender. General McAuliffe responded with one word: nuts. General Patton saluted the soldiers, said a few words, and pinned a medal on Frank. Suffering the death of his brother off the Pacific coast, Frank was home for Thanksgiving. In January 1946, Frank began hitchhiking across the country to visit the homes of soldiers who were killed during their time together. Frank said it was what he needed for himself to heal. October 22nd is going to be celebrated today on October 1st, as I invite everyone to join us in an early heartfelt singing of happy birthday for 100-year-old Frank Spender.
In 3 weeks. I think the choir needs some work here. And of course, we had the pleasure of being there yesterday when we came across the Korean Veterans Bridge in Ross's Point.
Thomas Sweeney, U.S. Marine Corps, 1959 to 1963, 1964 to 1967, Vietnam. Tom was a 331 machine gunner, military policeman. Tom was wounded in Da Nang on Hill 22, taken to a hospital in Okinawa, then Clark Air Force Base Hospital, and to Japan, where he reconnected with a buddy, Sergeant O'Malley. Visiting Sergeant O'Malley, fluid started to run out of Tom's stomach. After surgery, he was put in isolation, the only guy there. Looking out the window, Tom saw flames shooting up and realized the hospital was on fire. The corpsman arrived, taking him on a stretcher to the parking lot. The old wooden hospital was blown up, burned to death like a barbecue. Tom arrived back in Plattsburgh on February 17th, which was to be his and Dory's wedding day. They postponed the wedding for a week, and will celebrate their 56 years of marriage in February. Thomas Sweeney. Melvin Terry, U.S. Navy, 1960 to 1964, Vietnam. Better known as Buck. He completed basic training at Great Lakes, looking through holes to the outside. Norfolk, the hobby shop was a good job. His Buck knew machinery and kept supplies for all the companies. Aboard the USS Fred Berry, DD-858, Buck, a boiler technician, maintained the critical ship filter tests, did plumbing and welding. When an aluminum helicopter deck cracked, Buck welded it. All sailors with type O blood were told to be ready to donate when John Glenn was scheduled to come down. They harbored in 14 nations, traveled half around the world, 41,800 miles, using over 2 million gallons of fuel. Buck said it was an excellent 4 years. Melvin Buck said. Bruce Wallen, U.S. Army, 1959-1961, Cold War. After basic training at Fort Dix, Bruce went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for artillery, rocket, battery, 3rd Infantry Division training. Sent to Germany, Bruce shook hands with Audie Murphy as he came to the outfit to film taking rockets from the truck to the launch. And Bruce saw Elvis Presley twice, driving a Jeep in the field during training and playing volleyball. Bruce said the German barracks were well insulated and warm compared to the old wooden barracks in the States. He added the German food and beer were good and people were nice to the soldiers. Bruce couldn't re-up as he was needed to take care of the farm back home. Bruce Wallet.
And his escort, Bob Wallet, a Vietnam-era Navy veteran.
Robert Wallet,
I'm going to mention it.
veteran
Good.
guardian for his brother Bruce. U.S. Navy, 1965, 1969, Vietnam. Bob completed Radar Ace School at the Great Lakes Training Center. He was assigned to the USS Francis Marion APA-249, an amphibious assault ship. Bob served his entire time on the USS Francis Marion, the primary recovery ship for Apollo 8. There had been some concern as contact was lost when Apollo circled the moon, and there was no issue on the land. Christmas 1968, the ship's captain, affectionately called the Old Man, took the sailors to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, for 2 weeks of vacation. Safe to say it was a good time for all. Robert Long. Henry Wilson, U.S. Navy, 1955-1959, Korean. After basic training at Bainbridge, Maryland, Hank went to Bank-Up to Boiler Tanker School in Philadelphia. Frank was assigned to the USS Tarawa as they traveled up and down the East Coast, from the North Atlantic to the South Atlantic. The ship crossed both the equator and the North Pole. To protect the USS Tarawa, they were escorted by anti-submarine warships to find, track, damage, and destroy enemy submarines. There were numerous, quite serious encounters with Russian submarines. Riots on the streets of Venezuela forced Vice President Richard Nixon to shelter at the U.S. Embassy. Mobilizing the USS Tarawa, 8 destroyers and 2 amphibious assault ships created high alert. Vice President was airlifted the next morning. Henry Wilson. Larry Ebert is the flight leader for Flight 43. Again, a reminder to show respect. Excuse me. John Berkman, 1967 to 1969, Vietnam. U.S. Army. U.S. Marine Corps, 1973 to 1980. U.S. Army Reserves, 1982 to 1992. After basic training, John took advanced training at Fort Gordon, Georgia. Joining the 2nd Civil Affairs, John learned Vietnamese customs and language in Vietnam. Following intense destruction, the Civil Affairs team rebuilt schools, hospitals, homes, supplied medical care and food to refugees. Assigned to the 3rd Brigade, 9th Infantry Division, John went throughout the Mekong Delta. During the 1968 Tet Offensive, John held this position all night as the infantry sustained numerous casualties and deaths. John received several medals and commendations for his courage and bravery over his many years of military service to our country. John Brookman. You will notice the next 4 veterans are all named Blair.
Brothers.
The first time we've had 4 brothers on a flight together. Their mother, Merle, raised 3 girls and 8 boys. All 8 served in combat in the U.S. Army. Chuck was in high school when their father died, leaving Mrs. Blair to run the farm while also raising younger boys and girls. She was tough. She raised her children well. The 4 Blair brothers will stand together as their bios are read, and each of them is holding a photo of a deceased brother. Chet, brother Merrill; Larry, brother Gerald; Fred, brother Robert; Richard, brother Leon. Chester Blair, U.S. Army, 1962-1965, Vietnam. Assigned to the 7th Cavalry in Korea. Chet said the Korean armored unit slowed down so people behind them could prepare for North Korea or China invasion. With fierce winds coming out of the Himalayas, walking the fence line on guard duty, they could only patrol for 1 hour. It was so cold, they only shot 5 ammunition 8 minutes at a time. In Alaska, the unit built roads. Chet said watching the U.S. U-2 spy plane taking off was quite an experience. Returning from Korea, they were 2 weeks on a ship. From Japan, they went to Hawaii, where they put a hole in the ship and were forced to spend an entire day in Hawaii before heading to California. Chester Blair. Frederick Blair, U.S. Army, 1962 to 1965, Vietnam. After basic and advanced training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, Fred was certified as a radio operator who knew Morse code, a mechanic, and a general repairman. As direct support to keep everything running smoothly, Fred worked 8-hour days, 5 days a week, and had the weekends off. As the driver of the commander, Fred had his own Jeep. This schedule allowed Fred to visit Garmisch, Germany, Innsbruck, Austria, and parts of France. The German alert was issued and everyone ordered back to the barracks when word came that President Kennedy had been assassinated. Frederick Blair. Larry Blair, U.S. Army, 1964 to 1966, Vietnam. Larry completed training as a military policeman at Fort Gordon, Georgia. Stationed in Germany, Larry said he hated arresting lots of soldiers who were put in jail until they sobered up. Many went to trial. While there were a few robberies, one soldier was sentenced to 2 years in jail. The military policemen had their own barracks with 10 MPs to a building. Larry went to Hitler's hideaway, known as the Eagle's Nest. The underground town has 4 miles of tunnels, and Hitler had lavish living quarters. It was an interesting sight. Larry liked Germany and said it was a good time, likely made even better because their German buddies would buy their beer. Larry Blair. Richard Blair, U.S. Army, 1964 to 1966, Vietnam. Richard trained at Fort Sam Houston, Texas, as a medic specialist with the 1st Battalion, 36th Infantry. Stationed in Germany, Richard was on a weekend pass going to Hitler's hideaway. At the gate, Dick heard a tap on the window, saw an MP in uniform with a weapon, as his brother Larry waved at him. They didn't see each other again for the 2 years they were in Germany. Richard enjoyed weekend passes. Returning to Germany from Austria, his pass didn't say he could leave Germany, so they weren't going to let him back in. Not daunted by that experience, he went on to visit Holland, Switzerland, Sweden, France, and just happened to be in England the weekend the Playboy Bunny Club opened up. Let's hear it for Blair Brothers. Ronald Briette, U.S. Navy, Seabees, 1967-1970, Vietnam. After basic training at Gulfport, Mississippi, and combat training at Camp Lejeune, Ron was assigned to MCB 133rd Battalion, Charlie Company, as a Seabees steelworker. Ron did 2 9-month tours in Vietnam. The first Tet Offensive took place north of Pine Tree Province. On Ron's second tour, the battalion attached to the Marines at Mekong Delta. They could see Cambodia and 1.5 miles across the rice paddies. Home on leave in between his 2 tours in Vietnam, Ron and his future brother-in-law went to Albany State University to see the music here. Ron realized he really stood out with his clean haircut. Ronald Briette. John Kaufman, U.S. Air Force, 1965 to 1988, Vietnam. John began the first 3 years of military service as a fireman and crew chief. The next 20 years, 5 days, John worked transportation squad, packing and crating, shipped cargo all over the world, including hazardous materials. During his service years, John was stationed at bases around the world, including Pease, Castle, McClellan, Loring, Guam, Vietnam, Ireland, England. John retired from Plattsburgh Air Force Base. John's guardian, Cindy, his wife of 56 years, said they really enjoyed their years in England. John Kaufman. Royce Clark, U.S. Army, 1969 to 1971, Vietnam. After basic training at Fort Dix, Royce completed advanced individual training on heavy equipment maintenance at Fort Belvoir, Virginia. Stationed in Vietnam, Royce was assigned to the 554th Engineer Battalion. He drove a 2.5-ton truck hauling material across Vietnam and building roads in Cambodia. Royce was stationed in Germany for 15 months, driving tractor-trailer, hauling fuel to other U.S. military bases. Royce has been a dedicated member of the Honor Guard at our ceremonies for years. We're pleased he's finally getting on a flight. Royce Clark. Alan LeDuc, 1953 to 1956, Korean. Alan, better known as Bill, I don't know, was assigned to the 19th Infantry Regiment, 24th Division. As the troops crossed the river, shots came from overhead. Grabbing his 46-pound rifle and pistol, Bill walked ashore. Bill felt like a mountain goat as they climbed Hill 3, which was so high they looked down on the pilots as they flew by. On night patrol in the pitch black, Bill fell off the hill. He spent 21 days in a field hospital tent. At Walter Reed Hospital, doctors determined Bill had lost 2 centimeters of his brain and half the sight in both eyes. A young man named Raymond Ferguson took care of Bill during his entire time at Walter Reed. Several years later, Bill and retired Brigadier General Raymond Ferguson reconnected in friendship. Alan, Bill, the Duke. Michael the Duke, veteran guardian for his dad. U.S. Air Force, 1975-1979, Cold War. At 17, Michael went to basic training in Texas where he received an expert marksman ribbon. Assigned to technical school in Denver, Michael trained on F-111, A-7, and F-4 fighter aircraft weapon systems. He then joined the A-10 Warthog test team. Sent to Germany, Michael was assigned to the 52nd Munitions Maintenance Squadron to work on the A-10 Warthogs. The program was canceled because the hangars were too small for the Warthog's large wingspan. Michael extended his time to work on the F-4E Phantom nose guns until his military separation. Michael, the Duke. Kevin Moriarty, U.S. Navy, 1967-1971, Vietnam. Kevin completed training in fire party duty, electrician, duty drive, and hazard response team. While at sea, Kevin ran the generator and the switchboard in the engine room. Kevin first joined the USS Totila, ARG-4, in the Mekong Delta. He then boarded the USS Gator, DD-706, until it was decommissioned. Next was the USS Edward McDonald, DE-104. Until Kevin's new and final ship arrived, the USS Fisk, DE-842. The various ships took Kevin to Alaska, the Mediterranean, North Atlantic, Caribbean, and Europe for a total of 14 countries. I'll also add that Kevin, for many years, has been one of the motorcycle policemen over in St. Mark's Town. Kevin Moriarty. John Ross, U.S. Navy, 1965 to 1969, Vietnam. Jack was assigned to the USS Crackle, ARS-53. Jack was the ship chef, also serving as the captain's bodyguard, carrying pistol, submachine gun, and rifle. If there were no issues imminent, the intercom system said all clear throughout the ship when Jack went back to cook. As a repair and salvaging ship, the USS Cracker generations operations while moored on beaches or piers, put sailors, including Jack, highly exposed to large. Jack's first start date was Saturday, a 2-day weekend, putting over the 4th year, and his service into the 5th year, increasing his pay. John Ross. Gerald Villeneuve, U.S. Air Force, 1951 to 1955, Korean. Jerry was assigned to the 12th Air Force and sent to West Platten, Germany. He was designated a cashier, but spent most of his time providing security. Jerry was responsible for the weapons, radio relay off base, and guard duties. While his job was listed as a 62-250 cook, the Germans did all the cooking and he never cooked a meal while he was there. Jerry said the German food was good. Returning to the States, he was assigned as a clerk typist. Again, Jerry spent almost all his time on guard duty. On a rainy night, there all by himself, Jerry heard a voice call, "What makes your head so hard? Rocks?" It broke up the night. 92-year-old Jerry Villanova. Welcome.
He's still got a spring in his step.
Andrew West, U.S. Navy, 1955 to 1958, Vietnam. Andy was assigned to the USS Vulcan, AR-5, an auxiliary repair ship. Andy served as a metalsmith and shop foreman with a crew of 20 seamen. Their mission to repair major damage, retrofits, and update existing fleets. With a home base in Norfolk, the USS Vulcan was scheduled for dry dock in Newport, Rhode Island. The aluminum decking on the ship needed costly repair. Andy said he could fix it. At the metal shop, with blueprints and ordering the right stuff. Because of his ability, Andy saved more than $100,000. The captain presented a citation to Andy for his outstanding service. Andrew West.
Escorted by Dr. Andrew West, the chiropractor.
This completes our biography. With an outstanding crowd like this, I know you can thank every veteran with a rousing applause.
All been greeted by the Congresswoman behind our back.
Thank you, everyone. We want to mention we have the official count from Barry, 177 motorcycles.
All right.
We're part of the motorcade and the escort to bring the veterans from Champlain Center here to the Oval. 177. We want to thank you for coming this morning. There is going to be the motorcade over to the airport, to the FBO, located at 1 Alabama Avenue. We're not going to the airport terminal this trip. As the procession circles the parking lot, the buses will peel off and enter the nose dock one hangar. So there will be limited views of the veterans boarding the aircraft. And remember, tonight at 8:30, our veterans will be returning back home right here to the Oval. We're planning a big celebration and welcome home for them here. Hope you can make it back and provide them a wonderful welcome home to their day in Washington. Thank you for coming this morning. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Nice job, Tom Hollick. Nice job, Barry Finnegan and company, and our friends from Post 912 and the Sons of the Legion and American Legion, and Auxiliary, and all the other veterans here who are helping to send off. And we're going to try to get this escort as it leaves the Oval here. Normally we try to get them as they're exiting the Oval here, but this long parade here, we will not be able to get anywhere near the exit before a good number of these have already gone by. 177, hope you're counting. the oval throughout the ceremony. He's hovering over the exit. Country Honor Flight, October 1st, 2022. Essex County Sheriff's Department. Our former Sheriff Dick Cutting still very much involved with the honor flight, although he's left the area. There's state troopers. There's the official honor flight bus. Danny Barber driving, another trooper. Second bus that they need because of the number of veterans. The double flights they're doing this year. Whole lot of state troopers here, as you can see. City police. And we got the guy playing the match theme. We got to talk through that because copyright problems when we get this on YouTube. County Sheriff's Department, another biker. Honor flight truck right there. There's more bikers inside the City of Plattsburgh ladder truck. More bikers are about to come through, and as you can see, the bikes are leaving the oval down that way, so we'll stay here for these bikers. They're certainly part of the parade. Unfortunately, the chopper has moved on. There's a very nice photo from the last honor flight with the flag and the helicopter above it. And a very nice photo indeed. It's on the honor flight Facebook page. So it's going to wrap up our October 1st, 2022 coverage of the North Country Honor Flight here in Plattsburgh, the former Plattsburgh Air Force Base. So we're going to close out with our shots of the helicopter that's flying over the underflight bus. So thanks for watching and supporting Hometown Cable. It's been our sincerest pleasure to be able to cover every one of these send-offs thus far in the North Country underflight history.